Hello guys, so it's no secret that my favorite band in the whole world is Queen, and a lot of people actually get surprised by the fact that that's my favorite band, and that's usually because of the fact that they've never actually gone into Queen. Like, some of the deep cuts are way better than, most of the popular songs. So I figured I'd make a list with my top 10 Queen songs, but that was so hard, so then I figured, okay, let's do 15, 20, 25. And it's just, I can't do that. I mean, it's so hard. So then I stopped to think, what about the worst songs? I mean, I don't love every Queen song. I don't think anybody can love every Queen song. And to me, that's the beauty about Queen. Just, the range, they're so dynamic and they vary so much. I mean, they play every genre you can think of. I mean, if you're into heavy metal, there's a song for you. If you're into blues, there's a song for you. If classical, Latin, foxtrot, even big band, even filmmaking, there's always something for you. But of course, that can rub people the wrong way. And of course, you're not gonna like every song by this band. So the original idea was to make a top 10 songs that suck by Queen. But I couldn't really get to 10. I just couldn't come up with 10 songs I hated. So I decided instead to do this. The worst song on every Queen album. And that of course includes all the studio albums, but no live albums or compilation albums. Okay, so let's get started with Queen's debut album, the very first album titled Queen. The first album to me is one of the most solid albums they came up with. I mean, it's a very flat album and it's a very heavy album. What I mean by that, by flat, is the fact that there's not a lot of very high peaks, but there's definitely not a lot of like really bad songs either. So my least favorite song from that album is the last song, which is an instrumental song, and it's called Seven Seas of Rye. Not to be confused by the full version on the second album, also titled Seven Seas of Rye. This is an instrumental version of a song that was not completed, that was going to serve as an outro that was going to blend into the first song on the second album, which was going to be Seven Seas of Rye, but then both the record label and the band decided to push back that song more towards like the middle to the end of that second album. Now my least favorite song on Queen 2, the second album, is easy, no brainer. Funny How Love Is. I never got that song. I have no idea what they were trying to do, and to me it feels like an uninspired song. It's really hard to sing because he sings like really high up on his register, but other than that, there's not a lot of redeeming qualities to this song. I don't like the song at all, and it really pisses me off because Queen 2 to me is very close to being a perfect album if it weren't for this song. Song number 3 on this list comes off of Sheer Heart Attack, which is Queen's third album, and it's the first song that was written by Brian May on this list, and it's called She Makes Me. Another song that just makes no sense. It's a very dull song. It's kind of happy, but not really. It doesn't really go anywhere, and the lyrics are sappy. I mean, it just doesn't do it for me. It's definitely by far my least favorite song. Again, a really crappy song on an otherwise amazing album. Now for the fourth album, A Night at the Opera, I actually have a tie. I mean, on this album, I pretty much like every song, but these two songs are to me the weakest links on the album, and for very different reasons. And this might not be a very popular opinion, amongst Queen fans, but I don't really care for You're My Best Friend by John Deacon. I mean, it's not a bad song, it's very sappy, very cheesy, and that ties into the other song I chose from this album, Sweet Lady, with stupid lyrics like, you call me sweet like I'm some kind of cheese. I mean, what the hell is that? Come on, Brian. I mean, other than that, the song is kind of cool. It's got a heavy riff, it's mid-paced, but I mean, I just can't get past the lyrics here. Sorry. Now, on the fifth album, A Day at the Races, I am probably going to have my most controversial pick on the whole list, and that is Freddie Mercury's favorite song he ever wrote, Somebody to Love. I mean, it's a great song, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing song, but it is the one song I ever find myself just skipping when I'm listening to this album. It might be the fact that I just heard it so many times, and also the fact that it's a very long song, but man, I don't need to listen to that song ever again. Although I can definitely recognize, objectively, that it's a great song. Subjectively though, I can't stand it anymore. Now the same can be said for album number 7, News of the World. I tend to skip the first song, We Will Rock You. I mean, we don't need to listen to that song anymore. Ever. I mean, not this version anyway. I really enjoy and love that fast version on Live Killers. The one they used to open up shows with. That's an amazing version. I wish that song would have made it to the album. But hey, don't need to listen to that anymore. But that being said, my least favorite song on this album is not We Will Rock You, it's Get Down, Make Love. Again, I know a lot of people that love this song, I just don't get it. I mean, I think they just wrote this song to showcase what Brian May could do with his guitar and all the sound effects he could get out of it. That's the only reason. Even though it's a Freddie Mercury song, I just That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Next up is Jazz, the 8th album. And again, kind of a flat album. I mean, it really doesn't have a lot of like really super high peaks, but also it doesn't really go down very much either. It's a very solid album throughout. My least favorite song here is Fun It, which is a Roger Taylor song, and to me, Roger Taylor's songs usually tend to be some of the weakest songs on the albums, but they haven't been the worst song on an album thus far. And also, let's cut him a break. I mean, he's mainly a drummer. He is the drummer in Queen, and usually drummers are not great at writing songs. No offense to drummers, that's just a fact. And I mean, honestly, why would they? All they have to really focus on a band is just, keeping the beat and make sure they're on tempo and, the fills and stuff like that. I mean, they're not very musical per se. They don't really have to know notes or scales or anything like that. But in Roger Taylor's case and some other cases, obviously, they actually do pick up the guitar or the bass and they actually learn to play scales and chords and stuff like that. To me, Roger Taylor is the weakest link as far as writing songs for Queen. But he did very well, and he's not bad at all. He's just not as good as John Deacon, the hit-making machine, or, Brian May, or Freddie Mercury. Anyway, that being said, Fun It is my least favorite song off of Jazz. Now, the next album, I believe, is Flash Gordon. I mean, who are we kidding? I know it's Flash Gordon. From 1980, and this one shouldn't really count, because, it's a soundtrack for a film. I mean, there's not a lot of songs here. You have Flash, the hero, and you could make a case that, Football Fight and The Marriage are actually songs as well. But this is mostly just a collection of like background music, a soundtrack essentially. So this one shouldn't count. But gun to my head, I would probably choose The Ring. I mean, again, it's just noises and background music and stuff like that, but it's the shortest one and I don't know, I'm just going to pick that one. Now, also from 1980, we have The Games, which is one of the best-selling Queen albums ever. And again, to me, it's a very flat album. I mean, I know a lot of people love it because you have, very big hits like Another One Bites the Dust, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, Play the Game, Save Me. And right there, that's 40% of the album. It's 10 songs. But it's definitely a very pop-oriented album, which is not a bad thing per se. It's just, kind of flat. There's not a lot of peaks here. I mean, there's 2 or 3 really awesome songs on this album. I'm not going to tell you which ones those are. We're going to save that for a different video. But my least favorite song by far, Don't Try Suicide. Again. Now, the next album is most Queen fans' least favorite album, Hot Space from 1981. And again, it's probably not going to be a very popular opinion, but hey, this is my channel. I get to say what I want. One of my least favorite songs on this album, it's Under Pressure. I mean, it's a good song, but I think it's way overplayed. I think there's a lot of other songs on this album that are way underappreciated, especially when you listen to them being performed live. There's actually some really strong songs here, like Stay in Power, Back Chat. Cool Cat is a really cool song. But yeah, because of the fact that Queen went disco on this album, it's an album that gets instant hate no matter what. That being said though, Under Pressure is not my least favorite song on this album. My least favorite song on this album was the second biggest single on this album, which is Body Language, which they actually made a video clip for that was the first video to be banned from MTV. Now, 1984's The Works marked a return to form for Queen. They kind of left the disco experiment behind and they focused on making more poppy rock songs. And it shows. There's a couple of really, really good songs, but you can definitely tell that this is still a pop-driven album. Again, it's kind of a flat album with a couple of peaks, but I don't really hate any of the songs on the album. So gun to my head, my least favorite song on this album is Machines, Back to Humans, which is not a bad song. It's just my least favorite of the bunch. Now, Queen's 12th album was actually going to be another soundtrack album, but they decided, no, let's just make actual songs for the movie. So yeah, their 12th album is called A Kind of Magic, and it's definitely more of a rock album, more guitar oriented. You get songs like One Vision, Princess of the Universe, Kurgan's Theme. I mean, heavy songs, awesome songs. But you also get some softer songs and ballads. But that being said, don't get fooled. I don't think any of these songs are actual weak songs. They're just not as awesome as the other songs on the album. But my least favorite song, being a really cool song anyway, to me, and it pains me to say this, is Pain is So Close to Pleasure. It's a really good song. I really enjoy listening to it. It's just not a rocking song, and it's not a very catchy song either. Now for the next album, 1989's The Miracle, easy. Piece of cake. I hate these 2 songs with a passion. Party and Khashoggi's Ship. I mean, I know Queen was going through a rough time here, but I mean, How did these songs make it to the album and they left out songs like Don't Lose Your Head and Chinese Torture, which were actually bonus tracks on the CD version? And of course, Face It Alone, which is the newest song they just released a couple of weeks back, which is way better than these songs, eons better than these songs. But hey, they decided to go with these, and I hate them. Anyway, so we're on the home stretch, and we only have 2 albums to go. So I think this is a great time to tell you that if you actually enjoy the content, please subscribe to this channel like a man. If you haven't yet, drop me a like, drop me a comment in the comment section down below, and tell me which are the songs you hate the most out of all of these, or any other songs you think I might have left out, or if you strongly disagree with some of my picks, like Somebody to Love or Under Pressure, which I didn't actually choose, but I kind of hated on a little bit. And if you want to help support the channel big time, please make sure you go visit my Patreon. A little goes a long way, and we surely do appreciate it. Now, for the next album, Innuendo, one of my favorite albums ever, it really pisses me off that they included this song, because I find myself having to go and skip this song all the time, and that's All God's People. Again, another song I don't really understand. The lyrics are lame, the melody is lame, the song itself is just, it doesn't really go anywhere. Anyway, a huge dent on an otherwise amazing album, a true return to form. I would definitely put this album, Innuendo, up against any of the first 5 Queen albums. 4 Queen albums. Great album. But it's got this song, which... Anyway, so of course, Innuendo was released on 1991, and that was the same year that Freddie Mercury passed away. So naturally, I debated myself whether or not to actually include this album in this list. But then again, I actually consider this a full-on Queen album, even though it was released 4 years after Freddie Mercury's death in 1995. I think it's a Queen album, and I am going to include it. So the last album is 1995's Made in Heaven. This one actually does have some high peaks, like the title track, Made in Heaven, Mother Love, A Winter's Tale. I mean, there's a lot of really good songs here. I don't want to name them all. You know, that's something for a different video. I don't actually hate any of the songs on this album, but I feel like these 2 songs are the weakest ones for me. And they are Let Me Live and My Life Has Been Saved. And I mean, they're not bad songs and, you know, very heavy charged lyrics, especially considering the context, but they just don't do it for me as much as some of the other songs on this album. Anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you guys next time. Pat out, metal on, dudes. Long live the Queen.